We're still short a drummer.
What happened to him?
He sneezed himself into oblivion.
Is that medically possible?
So you think you might fill the bill?
I don't want to die.
We've only lost 11 or 12? 11 drummers.
England's loudest band is back. I went into Spinal Tap 2 with low expectations, because belated comedy sequels are usually a massive letdown. Zoolander 2, Dumb and Dumber 2, Super Troopers 2, Blues Brothers 2000, Coming to America. Even the halfway decent ones like Anchorman 2 and Happy Gilmore 2 and Beverly Hills Cop Axel F pale in comparison to their classic predecessors. But against all odds, Spinal Tap 2 is actually pretty good. It's not the game-changing comedy masterpiece the first one was, but it's not the nuclear disaster that Zoolander 2 was either. Anchorman 2 feels like a pretty good comparison. It's not as tight as the original, it's not as consistently hilarious, but it's still really funny and ultimately worthwhile.
We'll go back in time to that mystic land.
Unlike Dumb and Dumber or Coming to America, the premise of Spinal Tap actually gets funnier the older they are. These guys were over the hill in 1984. Now it's 40 years later, the hill is long gone. Everyone slips effortlessly back into their roles without missing a beat. Michael McKean's David St. Hubbins is even more of an arrogant diva in his twilight years. Christopher Guest's Nigel Tufnell is even more confused and out of it as his mind ages. And Harry Shearer's Derek Smalls, the self-proclaimed glue holding the band together, always chimes in with a great line. The central conflict in the sequel is a 15-year feud between David and Nigel, and McKean and Guest have a ton of fun with it. David is bitter and resentful, which comes out in the pettiest ways, and Nigel can't even remember what the disagreement was about. Rob Reiner is a great foil for the band once again. He's inherited his dad's gift for feeding straight lines to tee up his co-stars. Carl Reiner mastered that art when he did the 2,000-year-old man routine with Mel Brooks, and Rob is just as good at asking the right questions to get his fellow performers onto a comedic riff.
Why don't you just make 10 louder and make 10 be the top number and make that a little louder?
These go to 11.
It's great to see those four again. They hit all the right nostalgic beats, but they also bring plenty of fresh comedy to the table and perfectly capture the vibe of old, spaced-out rockers. The problem lies with everyone else in the movie. Spinal Tap 2 has the same problem as Happy Gilmore 2. Everyone in that world, sports in the case of Happy Gilmore and music in the case of Spinal Tap, loved the original film and wanted to cameo in the sequel. But while they're all famous, they're not all comedically gifted. For every surprisingly funny Scotty Scheffler, there are a dozen painfully unfunny Travis Kelce's. It's a joy to see Spinal Tap jamming with Paul McCartney and Elton John, but most of the sequel's cameos fall flat. Lars Ulrich and Chad Smith might keep perfect time as drummers, but their comic timing is way off. For the most part, the supporting players who are actually actors and comedians add instead of subtract. Kerry Godliman gets some blunt laughs as Ian Faith's daughter, and Christopher Guest regular John Michael Higgins has a hilarious cameo as a fitness instructor trying to get the band into shape before the show. Chris Addison drags the film down a bit. I like his stand-up, but he overplays his role as a shitbag promoter here. The genius of the lead quartet's performances is that they throw out these ridiculous lines with a straight face. They never act like they're saying something funny. Christopher Guest says every inane observation that comes out of Nigel's mouth with 100% conviction, but Chris Addison plays every scene like he's doing an over-the-top bit. It wouldn't bother me too much, but he gets a ton of screen time. When he abruptly leaves in the third act, I was just relieved we wouldn't have to put up with him anymore, and we could give some airtime back to the legends.
Stonehenge, 'tis a magic place where the moon doth rise with her dragon.
Mercifully, Spinal Tap 2 doesn't just rehash the jokes from the first film. That's a trap that a lot of comedy sequels fall into, doubling down on familiar jokes instead of coming up with new ones, and it makes them feel redundant and repetitive. The Spinal Tap sequel has nods to classic gags, but it builds on them. Instead of showing Marty his amp collection, Nigel shows off his pedal boards. The first film was as much about the music as the comedy, and the sequel maintains that. The bulk of the second act is made up of rehearsal jam sessions consisting of equal parts freestyle rock and improv comedy. The songs featured in the original film were a spot-on satire of contemporary British rock, from the meaningless airy-fairy hippy-dippy ballad Flower People to the hilariously unsubtle sexual metaphors of Big Bottom. All the classics reappear in the sequel, but there are some great new songs too, like Derek's new track, Reckoning with His Own Mortality, Rockin' in the Urn. Spinal Tap 2 won't become the classic that the first film did, but it doesn't tarnish the first film's legacy either. It's a more than welcome return to these characters, even if it doesn't quite go up to 11.
I'm in a band that constantly is breaking apart and coming back together.
But the more we retreat into the music, the nicer things become.
I for watching, guys. I hope you liked the video. Remember to like and subscribe and click on the little bell. And also seize the day and call your mom and be kind to yourself.